This is Reginald Perryman. Today I'm going to show you a cheap way, a free way, or just basically inexpensive ways to find absentee owners, probate leads, and pre-foreclosures, because we don't always want people after they've been foreclosed on. Sometimes we want to catch them before the foreclosure process has started or ended, and we want to basically catch people prior to the redemption period or prior to sheriff's sale. So this is for any realtors and or investors that are here in Michigan and doing business here in Michigan. So I'm going to show you a couple of the sources that I use and some suggestions as well. So let's take a look here. One of my main sources that I'm using is the Legal News. Believe it or not, I actually use Zillow mainly because I get a lot of calls from buyers looking on Zillow and they're confused between the actual foreclosed properties and pre-foreclosed properties. But actually, when they call me on a property, it sends an alert to me, and I can look that information up and contact the actual seller and sell that buyer or investor that home, or maybe I'll just buy it myself, or maybe it's a potential listing. So again, this works for either investors or agents and brokers as well. And of course, we use our MLS system as an agent here. There are several resources that we have that are free because they're already included with our MLS system, and we'll go through that today. One of the tools I actually pay for Mojo, which actually gives you a skip tracing option and a neighborhood search. And again, some of these services are not 100% correct. Some numbers are not either listed, or it's a number that's not accurate for their address. But any additional information would help. And of course, you want to send out mailers and everything as well. So let's look here at the Legal News. So one of the things I do is I can go on here. You can purchase a subscription to the Legal News. Now, keep in mind, there are third-party sites and companies that will pull all of this data for you for a fee. Maybe they charge you $100 or $200 a month for all the data. But you can subscribe to the Legal News for less than a couple $100s a year. So just keep this in mind. So if I look up foreclosures, and let's just say I want to do Wayne County here, for example, and let's just go back to maybe like the first of the month, and I'll go through today's date, right? And I just want the published date because this is what I'm looking for, when it was published. So you're going to see properties here. And as a realtor, for example, you're going to notice something about some of these properties. The amount that what the people owe on the property versus what the property value is worth is still shocking, that some of these people have not taken the opportunity to list the property or refinance. But these people still have time. They're going to have their redemption time frame of at least 6 months for here in Michigan. So I'll just scroll through here. I'll find a property, for example, this property on University. I'll look at some basic information like how much it went, how much the balance was due at the time. So $33,000. You can quickly look here. So here's the property address, 6369, 33,000 was the balance. I have the owner's name, probably was an LLC. They probably had was an LLC. They probably had some type of finance loan as far as either like a hard money, or this was a rental property of some sort. But let's look back. I want to find one that I'm actually working on here. So I don't see it listed, but let's just use any one of these as an example. I want to find the actual owner. So we'll look at this property here. Their balance is, the mortgage amount they claim was $102. This is 17607 Pennington. So just real quick, the first thing I do is come to PRD 1760. What's it? 602. So 17607. Okay. So I'll see if the names somewhat match here. I'll look at the property, see what the mortgages were for, and it's not listed, right? So to see if it's worth my time, I'll just run the comps on the property. I see it's over 1,900 square feet. I know this area. I know it's worth it. It just depends on what you can do with it. 10607, 10. So I'll just do a quick comps without really going into too many details. I'm just going to go back 108 days here. So real quick, just looking at the comps here. So worst case scenario, I mean, this property sold for 157, similar square foot. These properties here are probably distress sales as well. So of course, you know, as is 203K, probably someone looking to sell the property as is. But when I look at this, it lets me know that it's worth pursuing either this listing or investment property, because their balance at the time here, the mortgage was 102, so it looks like there's some room here. So 238 being the high end of the market, but the square footage on this one is huge. But just comparing this, so let's say 180, 165, 161. So let's just say you're at 157 like the other property down the street. All right, there's a little bit of equity there. Maybe the seller can sell and list it, depending on the condition of the property. So that's a quick way to do it. So you can come here as an agent. You can come here to Remind, which is something that we have through the MLS here. That's going to take a moment to log in. It's going to ask me to log back in here. All right, so now I'm in Remind, right? And if I just want to do a search here, 17607. So I'll pull it up. It's going to give me some information here. Now, in order to get this person's name, and well, not their name, but their actual, I'm going to have to add it to the cart in order to get their contact information. All right. It says off market, sales score is low, but I'm not paying attention to that now because I already know there was a foreclosure. It tells you some more data here. There was a refi loan, different information, gives you the interest rate, what the original loan amount was, and that was back in 2005. So it's just giving you an estimated value, how much equity and things of that nature. So they're estimating about $61,000 in equity, which is pretty close to what we looked at when we looked at comps, right? So I can buy the data here at a per use cost. You can they'll charge you, and you can get the seller's contact information. Or I can use Intellis, which will allow me to find a person's name and number, or you can look it up on a directory, or I can look it up on Mojo, either through skip tracing or neighborhood search. To get a phone number, some of these sites will give you a phone number and email address, so you want to keep that in mind as well. All right, so those are options. So when you look at this data that's already available to you through the legal news and through RealComp, it's simple. You just contact this person, either phone, email. You can door knock, meaning that you actually knock on a door. That's the most effective way, but it's the most time consuming. So you can door knock, you can send direct mail letters, because the thing is, most people don't know the value of their home still. And if you can go to this person and say, hey, your home is worth $150,000 or $140,000, or even if they sold it as is and they walked away with $10,000 in their pocket, it's better than them losing the property to foreclosure. So that's the part about being proactive with finding listings or investment properties. The other thing is foreclosure prevention. This is when some type of loan modification was recorded. We would use a similar situation here when we're looking on the legal news. And of course you have your probate properties. So your probate properties, you would just come here and maybe just do a search. And then now this is going to take some time too, because you have to cross-reference these people to see who first, if the person that's deceased owned any real estate, and then you're going to look up the personal rep's contact information. You're going to market to the personal rep. You can also reach out to the attorney. Now each county is different. Like Wayne County posts information for the personal rep. Some counties may just post the name, or some personal reps only filled out their name and not their personal address and telephone number. So that's when you go back to using services like your skip tracers and things of that nature. Now to skip trace and get that additional data, typically it's going to cost you either a monthly subscription fee or a per use fee. So in other words, anytime you pull a record, they're going to charge you, right? So that's how you can go about finding potential probate listings. I do this often. I have a whole probate system that I use to get probate listings. So I mentioned earlier about finding foreclosures on Zillow. So one of the things on Zillow is when buyers go here, for example, they're coming on Zillow, and I'm just going to type in Radford, Michigan, for example, right? So if you look at this, it just looks pretty standard, right? But what most buyers don't understand is when you go here, this is actually a filter, and you filter through. So it's giving you everything. And most buyers and some investors and agents don't know that this filter, there's a difference between foreclosures and foreclosed or pre-foreclosures, and it tells you right here what each one is. So on Zillow, foreclosures are homes that the bank has already foreclosed on, have taken possession, and they've listed those properties on the market either with an agent or directly. So these are properties that are actively on the market, listed with the bank, meaning the bank is the seller, and they have ownership, and they put these homes on the market. Foreclosed means that the bank has taken ownership, but they haven't put it on the market just yet. That's why it says foreclosed. So these are properties that are for sale foreclosures. These are potential listings. So you'll see that. So it hasn't quite foreclosed yet. Well, it's foreclosed, but they haven't taken possession and listed the property yet. And pre-foreclosure, like it tells you here, means that they just served a notice. So the property on public record somewhere, or it was documented that the bank has started the foreclosure process. So if I'm looking here in Redford, for example, I may see a property. Here you just scroll through and you start looking at the information. So let's just pick a property here. So it's 15929 New Guinea Street. So let's pick this property. And then I'm just going to come back to what I'm already paying for as a realtor, is RealComp or MLS system. And if you're not a realtor, just contact a realtor and have them assist you. So this was, let me pull 15929. And all of this is public record. It's not, so if you know this person, don't get mad at us for posting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the owner's name here on public record. I'm going to check and see if the property is currently listed, which is not. It last sold several years ago, back in 2015 for $80,000. So I'm just going to go back to PRD. I'm going to look at this information here, and then I'll do some comps and say, okay, well, maybe I don't know what it foreclosed on. So again, this is if you don't have access to the legal news and you're not paying for a subscription. You can just search through Zillow foreclosures and pre-foreclosures and find this information, cross-reference with public record. Now, if you are not a realtor and you don't have access to the MLS, you can go on Wayne County or any county site, and you may have to pay for it, but you can cross-reference this information there. Because what I'm looking for is I want to make sure I can find the actual owner of this property, and in our public record it shows the owner listed here. And I can also go on Realist tax information, because the other thing I want to look for is I want to compare some notes here. 15929. So I'm going to pull this information up. And I want to see if there's been any recording since this person purchased the property. And I don't see any. So that was the last MLS information. This is the last recording here, which was the warranty deed. And this is when the current owner purchased the property. So what I would do, the way you would market to this person, you can also come into Remind, put their information in and mail directly to them. I would just simply mail to the owner, to the property address. I would door knock, because the reason door knocking is effective is because when you go there, you know, you can find out if the property is vacant or not, and you're not spending your time sending out mailers only for the mail to be returned to you in the future. So if you door knock, you get an idea if this person kind of pretty much gave up on a home and walked away from it, or if the property's just sitting vacant. Maybe the owner lives out of state somewhere. That's when you go to your skip tracing and you start finding a number for the actual owner. So that's how you're going to be able to find foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, and probate properties. Now, the other part that I want to mention to you is the good thing with Remind is, what I like about the Remind system is you can come here and filter out. So here's the thing. Right now, absentee owners is probably our gold mine if you are a Detroit realtor, because we have so many out-of-state and overseas investors that brought properties here and they were holding the properties for rental properties. Two things are going to make those people want to list and sell their properties. One is because Detroit was really cracking down on lead-based paint inspections and making sure people brought their homes up to city code, complying with the rental ordinance for the city. And a lot of out-of-state investors and overseas investors either didn't have property managers or didn't have good property managers, and it's hard for them to maintain those properties and bring them up to city code, because again, right now contractors are extremely busy, or you have investors that are out of state and overseas, and just the fact that tenants, there were eviction bans, tenants are not paying or unable to pay, this is causing some financial hardship. So you're going to see a lot of absentee owners looking to sell their rental properties. So when I search absentee owners, I look for both out-of-state and in-state. So out-of-state is going to have a different motivation than some of your in-state owners, because they already, the people that live here already have connections and understand what they need to do to get the property sold, or there's a little bit less of an urgency there. But someone that's living, 8 or 10 hours away, or even living overseas, they have no idea. They're not driving by their properties every week. Maybe their property manager dropped the bag on them, or dropped the ball, and they just can't maintain anymore. They just need to get rid of the property. So you can just simply come here and find all your absentee owners. I would just scroll in on the map. Let me just circle that out. So in here, again, I just did Redford, for example. So I would just come into an area, find as many absentee owners as I can find, and I would just start marketing to those people. Again, I would send out letters. I would skip trace, try to find names and numbers. You're not really door knocking in this case, but you are trying to make contact with the actual owner. So again, some of these people are going to be looking to sell, and sell soon. This is Reginald Perryman. If you have any questions, just reach out to me at 248-291-8057. For the Detroit Board of Realtor members, just feel free to reach me or contact the board office. I would highly advise you, if you are a realtor, use all of the free tools that you have available to you, because right now we have low inventory on the market. Buyers are buying, and there are motivated sellers out in the market now, and wholesalers are out hustling realtors like 10-1 right now, because the wholesalers are using all of these types of services to get listings, which is a good thing because it keeps the market moving, but you want your piece of the pie as well. If you are an investor, you either want to invest the time up front, or you want to leverage your time and either hire a realtor or hire a third-party service to pull this information for you. There's also companies that provide services where they do all the mailings for you as well. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, just feel free to contact me, Reginald Perryman, regisrealestate.com, or visit DetroitAssociationOfRealtors.com for more details.